You don't need to use it anymore.
I have my own at home that's easier. It's older.
All
right.
I think we got it. All right. Now let's get together.
Okay, I think we are ready to call the meeting to order.
Okay.
It is 1:30,
I'm 33.
and I do believe we have a quorum. We're missing one current board member, and then we have some vacancies. So, announce,
1:30 straight up.
1:30, straight up. All right, we're good to go. Thank you. And we have Nancy Levine from the Friends, representing the Friends here, and Tina. Thank you very kindly. A nice reminder that you have in one of these, we have a lot of handouts today, which is a little overwhelming, but one of them is a current version of the open meeting law, which we found out in the past couple, just a week or so ago, that it was updated in March of this year. So if you look on the handout, you'll see that it says March 18th, I believe, 2015. That needs to go in your manual and dispose of the current copy you have in there. So this is all part of the open meeting law reminder, which is on our agenda here, so we all know that we have open meetings and we adhere to the open meeting law. So take a look at it, and, it's been revised a little so that you're current. Thank you. And other announcements, Bob just 2 minutes before we officially opened the meeting reminded me that he will not be here next month, so we will be looking for someone to step in for him and take minutes of the meeting. And if someone would like to volunteer today, it would be mighty nice. But I'll let you think about it while the meeting's going on.
Well, I feel like I did it last time, so somebody else should be able to do it this
Right,
time.
that's right. Yep. Take turns.
Take turns.
Take turns. So.
Schoolyard paradigm.
All right. Other announcements. Do any of you have any announcements? None whatsoever? One of the things that I think is a good place to put the announcements is to speak briefly about some of the educational things that have happened and that people have gained information about. And Patty was so kind, I think in your handouts also, you have a handout from her on the Westminster training with Emmett. There were 4 of us there, 4 board members there, and Tony from the Friends also attended. So she did give you a handout on what happened and the new information and what he talked about. She also, that very same day, attended a training at Minuteman, and she did a report on that, and I believe you have that in your, so, interestingly enough, I think that both sets of items are very important, and there's good information in both of them. So those people that were at the training with Emmett, he talked a lot about the fact that the number of seniors across the Commonwealth, and across the country actually, will be increasing, and the number of school-age children will be decreasing as we move along, and that has a big impact for people as far as taking care of seniors. So in providing activities, information, resources, et cetera, for them, so.
And that came out in our needs assessment report from Dr. Munchler.
That's true, yep. Yes, Barbara?
Also, on the Minuteman information, this other sheet, the fiscal year for Minuteman, it lists all the money that they pay to Littleton for services, and maybe in March, when they have their fundraising and their penny march and all that business, we could do a little more for it.
That makes sense.
you know.
That's a good idea.
I have
Have
some
some kind
problems,
of a-
I have some problems with the information in this report, but that's okay.
With the Minuteman report, Bob?
Sure, it says that they're giving transportation. Who are they giving transportation to? We do the transportation. 13 consumers for cost of $261.
Those are additional rides. They do provide some transportation for people.
Okay.
Some. Well, you can see, 13 consumers,
Right.
261 rides, $261. That's a drop in the bucket, so
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm just asking.
maybe a ride a month.
No, it's good that we get clarification, Bob. And what was your other question for the transportation?
I don't know, I read it a while ago.
Um,
Do you agree with all of these, Pam? Do you know that these have actually happened?
You know, it's hard for Tina and I to validate these figures. Some of them we can validate, like the Shine Counselor, who actually physically is on our premises. We know the numbers of people that he serves. But something like nursing home screening, you know, we don't know who got screened by Minuteman for nursing homes.
May I interrupt here? Minuteman, when I was in Mass General, did have a representative come to see me.
Well, that's probably part of their care management program.
Well, it also states, it isn't on here, but somewhere I got something that said that they were going to charge us $2,500. Is this on the first page?
They
that-
always charge us $2,500, yeah.
That was a separate email that Pam sent out, I believe.
Yeah, they have they make an assessment for us every year, and it's a line item in our budget.
Well, it
Is
isn't
it-
a line item in our budget. A line item in our budget was $2,000, and we were arguing this and fighting it for 2 or 3
They
years.
want more money.
Are we now paying whatever they ask?
Last year, we did pay them $2,500. This year, I'm going to go back to paying them $2,000. I found
It
that
isn't
some towns
per
don't pay it
senior
at all.
head count
He's talking
anymore.
about a payment that we
No.
make to them.
Right.
You're
It
thinking of the
isn't per
formula grant.
senior, it's
You're
a
thinking of the
flat
formula.
amount.
You're thinking
right.
of the formula grant.
Mm.
I had a discussion at MCOA with some other directors about this, and they ask every town to pay. Some towns pay nothing. Many towns pay what they feel like they can afford.
Well, that's what we've always done. We always said that $2,000 was the most we could do, and then I noticed that we got slammed for $2,500 and something one year, and then last year we paid it again. And I don't know, it comes out of our budget, and when you're paying $500 extra out there, it's $500 less for what we need.
Right.
We covered that subject long time ago, and I think the extra money was taken from one we got from the paper, which we don't get anymore. No?
I don't know.
Right, before my time.
No,
Before my
long
time.
time,
Don't know
yeah.
about that. But it's funny, Bob, that you should mention that, because after the discussion I had with the other directors, I had the same feeling that we'll pay what we can afford and let it go at that. What's interesting is that, you know, the letter says that they want, what is it, $2,505, which I think is really an interesting number. And yet, they never submit a bill for it,
We just got it, that was the bill.
I guess.
Okay.
They don't submit an invoice. We went around and around about that. But I think the reason they don't submit an invoice is because they're not really supposed to bill us for this. They get money from the state to do these services.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just asking for us to
Help them out.
help them out. Right, exactly. I think that's
So-
why they won't send me an invoice.
Well, it would be nice if we could do that, but
Would be nice,
it's getting
right.
tighter and tighter here for us too, so.
But as far as these numbers go, we can verify that some of these numbers are good. Others, there's no way that we have any insight into them. And we don't have any insight into how they get the dollar figure.
Don't they send you an itemized every year
That's
of
what
what
that
they've
is.
done?
That's what
This
this
is it.
page is.
Yeah, but that's not good enough.
This is it.
That covers the whole town. Like, there are a lot of people that they,
Yeah.
care for that
Right.
don't deal with the
us,
COA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
And you're
complete.
saying that their ombudsman visited you
They're not
at...
complete, no.
Well, they certainly do provide a great service.
Right.
And they are very helpful.
Certainly more than
Yes.
$2,500.
Yes. So I think we ought to probably count our blessings, and we'll let Pam see where she can go with this approach. So, we don't have any say
I
over
was
it.
just pointing out that
It's under her province
It
anyway,
is,
right?
it is, it's in her lap, so. But before we move on out of,
All in your court.
right,
Good way to put it.
before we move on and complete announcements, a section on announcements, I have two little things to mention relating to Emmett's presentation in Westminster. And I wanted to mention that, and give a little plug for the Friends, the directors and the people that were there, we talked a lot about the Follies at Westminster that the seniors here are putting on, or the Friends are putting on, with participation from lots of people. Not all seniors, some community members. And the group that was there asked if directors in other towns could be notified and given a notice about when the Follies will be occurring
Your fame.
next year, because, so they could come if possible, or they could get the word out in their towns.
But there's a seating problem, only 200.
Well, that's for the Friends to worry about. It's not under our province
Next year, we're
anyway.
having the high school.
Oh, okay.
Your fame as a character actress has spread that far.
Okay.
Well, so,
And
but
you
the-
and Gino, one of
But I wanted to get the word out to everyone, to be
That's
looking for the Follies next spring. There will be another presentation by the Friends and people in town. And also, just so the Friends knew that other directors in other towns would like the information.
Great.
So, you've been given notice, Friends. So, but I wanted to remember to tell you that. And the other thing is, just an FYI, and I'd like to share this information, we all know we have board vacancies. And we are awaiting to see whether the town approves our vote to decrease the size of our board. And that meeting will be coming up soon in November, on November
Fourth? Is it the
1st,
fourth?
or, I think it's the
Fourth.
It's Monday.
first
The
Monday.
first is,
It's the first Monday, what is that, is that the 4th?
the second, I'm sorry, because the first is on a Sunday.
Yeah, so it's November 2nd.
Second.
So that will be coming up on the warrant at town meeting. But I also wanted to mention that regardless of what happens at town meeting, anyone who is interested in participating and learning more about the Council on Aging, or might consider, becoming a member, can fill out an application at any time by going to Diane, I believe it is, Crory. She has the applications?
Board of Selectmen.
Oh, the Board of Selectmen, I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Jennifer.
And filling out the application and dropping it off in their office. So, and it will be kept on file, so that it would be available when we do have, and the selectmen do put out the notice stating how many vacancies we have.
And just to clarify, regardless of what happens at town meeting.
That's right.
We will have vacancies.
Right.
We just don't know the number. until
Right.
That's why
They
nothing
make the
has
determination.
happened so far. So I wanted to get that word out to people, too, and make sure that everybody on the board understood that, so you can share that information with people that might be interested.
Could it go in the broadcaster?
Once we know what we have, I'm sure, but we don't know. That's the thing. We're in
Yeah.
limbo at the moment.
Yeah.
So we certainly can get the word out once we know exactly what we're dealing with. All right, any other announcements? That took a little bit longer than we sometimes think it's going to, but that was good. It was good information to share. All right, moving on then to our minutes from the September 14th meeting. You've all had a copy online, and you have a copy in front of you. If there are no issues or concerns or corrections, I will entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Jean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have an abstention? Mary? Do you want to vote, or are you abstaining, or?
I was just busy reading.
Oh.
Okay,
you weren't here anyway, so just say yes.
Yes,
You're approving them? All right.
right.
They have been approved. Thank you. All right. Okay. We're on up to the Friends.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't want to mention Barbara McCrae because she's in Italy on vacation having a wedding.
So we don't like her today.
The Friends had your potluck last week. And in one way, it was very successful because the food was great. Everyone had a super time. And the accordionist that Carolyn Harlow hired was really very good. The sad thing is that almost half the people that signed up didn't come without any notice.
I say, we had 38 signed up and 26 came, something like that.
There's 22 that came.
But it was very nice.
Most of the people signed up at the barbecue, and I believe they forgot. I had a thought, and I was talking out loud to Jeannie Johnson on your board, that I think in the future for something like this, perhaps we should notify them a week ahead of time. We have their phone numbers, and Jeannie suggested that we don't do it a week ahead of time because they still might forget. We do it usually on a Wednesday because that's the only day we can have the multi-purpose room. And so have, with Pam's okay, just to have people who man the phones, call them on Monday and Tuesday to remind them. So I haven't asked Pam yet, but I will ask her. So if you see her, tell her. The other thing is we're having the Veterans Day luncheon next month. It's on the 18th at Nojova Valley Technical High School. They are going to be serving us a turkey dinner. The reason we're not here is obvious. We don't have the kitchen. Pam sent me an email this morning that I haven't had a chance to respond to. We will have a limit to the number, but I don't know what that number is yet. I'm guessing it's going to be around 100, but we'll have more than 100. For instance, the Carolyn Harlow arranged for the high school chorus to come and sing for us during our meal. They will be eating with us, so that's 12 people. Plus my board is 8. You, I'm assuming that most of you will come, if not all. So we're talking about a good portion right away. Just with me and my board and the high school kids, we have 20.
But if they're not veterans,
Watch it. They're entertainers, and they're doing it for free, so we're paying them.
no, I meant the board members.
If you're a guest, you have to pay $5. If you're not a veteran, consider yourself a guest, then you pay $5 at the door.
And do veterans get priority in the number?
If they call last and there's no room, I have to say no.
Oh, okay.
So I'll figure out the total. I think, again, it's going to be around 100, but we are inviting the senators. We are, and representative, we are inviting the selected. So I'm hoping the number doesn't go higher than 125, 130.
That's what it usually is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And the school is being very, very cooperative, very helpful because of the kitchen incident. And then in December, we're having...
Can I
Of course.
tailgate on that, since you didn't read my email? Nancy had asked if we could take names for the list at the front desk. So we do have, in the green book, there's a sign-up form where we'll take names and phone numbers so that we'll know who is whom and which ones are veterans, and then we'll be providing that to the Friends as an alphabetized list so they can check people off when they come in the door. We also are more than willing to provide transportation, but people will have to call dispatch and make arrangements to go around the van, because I know there are some parking issues that are over there.
The parking issues are not what they think it is. People think when they go to the cafe, that's where you're going to park. That's not where you're going to park. It's all the way around in the back. You go past the cafe into the back, and it's a very big parking lot. And we go into door number, I don't remember the
Whatever,
number.
yeah.
And it says Performing Arts on the door, so we go in that number. I'm guessing that they have parking for approximately 75, 100 cars, because I've been there, I know.
There's a lot of parking.
So thank you, Ken.
The only reason I mentioned the parking is that's what people are telling me, is they're saying that there's no place to park over there, so. we
Well, they don't
withdraw
know.
the van.
Because they all want to park in front.
And a lot of them are thinking they want to go, yeah, go in the entrance where the restaurant is.
Then we'll tell people not to book the van, that they can all drive.
It may make, well, unless they need a ride and they can't drive, type of thing, but I think that's probably true, because when I think about going over there, I think about going in the entrance where the restaurant is, that people go to anytime.
Yeah, you may have to think of a way to communicate to people that there's parking.
You could advise carpooling.
Yep.
And we could put Barbara out in front with a sign in her costume, telling people to go around back.
Are you going to do that?
No, Barbara is. She's the famous actress.
Right.
In December,
I wrote an article for the Action of the in the Littleton Independent, and I did say that parking is available in the back.
Okay.
Go past the cafe, and parking is in the back. I recommended carpooling or using the van.
Right.
That makes sense. All you can do.
I think last time I went with you, didn't I? You drove me there once. I'm ever going to your house.
In December, the Friends will have a fashion show with an afternoon tea. I don't remember the date, I apologize. And in January, we're planning on a New Year's Eve party. But last year, we had problems with the weather, and this year, I'm thinking, according to Farmer's Almanac, we might have problems again.
in January, you're going to have what?
A New Year's Eve party.
Let's be positive now.
Yeah, El Nino is going to turn it all to rain. It'll just rain.
Any other questions?
Thank you. That's very nice, very informative, actually. Lots going on.
I would just like to say that the dinner that we had, the potluck was amazing. The number of things, the variety of food was really excellent. It was just very, very enjoyable. And somebody made some wonderful baked beans. I won't mention her name, will I, Barbara?
What's her name now? Was it Matilda? No. Elvira. Elvira.
It really was very, very nice.
It was. I agree with you, Bob. Second that. It was really, and it just goes to show that we can use that function, the room, and we got along without the kitchen. So, but,
Say that too loud.
yeah, yes, but no, temporarily, we don't want to give the wrong impression out there, but,
But it does show that you can do something with a potluck and
Right.
get people there.
Right.
yes.
Got a different group of people there. Mostly people who could make, that's what I said to my wife, we got all the people who were willing to make something. And, it was, they really did a nice job.
It was very much like
They
it.
really did a nice job.
It was very nice.
Someone was there in a wheelchair and someone was there in a bigger oxygen tank, so I thought this was really great.
Cool.
Yep. Thank you. And we'll piggyback and move right along into old business. I'm not cutting you off, am I? I hope not, Nancy. Okay. And the update on the kitchen project, since we're right there, talking about the kitchen.
Well, I'm very happy to announce that we have not only a contractor who has a bid that's acceptable, but we have a signed contract. And next Tuesday, the 27th, is the day that demolition is supposed to start in the kitchen.
Yay!
And I've been asked by the PMDC to convey to the Friends and anyone else that the kitchen will be absolutely closed as of that date. I know there are people who have keys, I don't know who they are, but I went down to the bingo group and the kitchen was open, so someone obviously has a key. That can't be open, can't be used at all, starting next Tuesday.
I don't have a key, but I'll ask my board. I know Ellen doesn't have a key.
I don't know, like I said, I don't know who it was, but I know someone does because.
Well, it becomes a construction site, and you cannot go on a construction site.
Absolutely, right,
There are things in the
Have
refrigerator.
tape
though.
across the door or something.
yeah.
Just in case.
And I'm sure that they will have signs up and just
Yeah.
asking to make sure that the message gets out to people to not violate that
Yeah, great.
notice because it's too dangerous.
Good.
We'll see in terms of how things progress, but I'll keep you guys informed at our meetings. I'm ecstatic that we actually have a start date and we have somebody who's committed to do the work. On the other end of things, again, Housing Authority, Lisa Larrabee has been wonderful for us down at 19
has.
Shattuck Street. She's not pushing us out by any means. In fact, Gail told me that they were all saying that they're a little sad to think that she's going to be leaving.
Aw.
I think the people in the home have appreciated it. The,
In the housing down there.
we haven't got other people over there like we normally do, but the people in the area, I've had that comment a couple of times.
I'm really looking forward to us being able to get back on track and have the variety of things that we do down there. The coffee with the police chief, coffee with the fire chief, our men's breakfast, ladies' breakfast, our special lunch on Thursdays, all the things that draw people in a more informal kind of fashion.
Are they giving you an end date?
They've said 12 to 15 weeks. That's what PMDC told the Board of Selectmen in the meeting last Monday night. And thanks to those members of the Board of Selectmen who have really taken an interest in this and are helping to follow up and make sure that we are in good shape. Paul Avella has been very helpful. He sent me some emails, and it was obvious if you watched that meeting on TV that they're interested and they want to make sure that we get what we need. Still up in the air whether the stove will be in or out. The stove was an additional item, but the stove, tough as it is down there, we could limp along with that stove for a while if we can just get the code things in. Sinks, hand wash sink, the dishwasher, and the Ansel system.
First things first.
Right. We have to do it in terms of priorities.
And also along those lines, I'd like to mention there's a wonderful article in the Independent about the kitchen. I think, Pam, you must have been instrumental in that.
It was good.
It was a great article, I
Except the
thought.
very last paragraph was wrong.
A little garbled, yeah.
Huh?
A little garbled in that last
Yeah.
paragraph.
But it was also,
They made it fit.
But it was good, it was.
it was. And it helped, it's
That
helpful.
doesn't make any difference, they made it fit.
The first, the stuff that they had in the beginning was accurate. I was really pleased that they got it right. I didn't actually speak directly with the young man who wrote the article, but Tina did. He was a man, right? And they took the pictures and what have you. I was gone to the MCOA conference, but I had some email correspondence.
It was good. All right, any other questions about the kitchen? Okay. Update on the needs assessment, and I think you have a handout in your packet.
Have in your packet, and you want to read it carefully, because it is going to imply a lot of things, like putting things into the budget, and I think it's very important.
I don't know if you want to hit some of the highlights, Bob. I don't know if you want to hit some of the highlights in there.
Yeah, okay. First of all, what it talked about was, and what we did on the subcommittee was to deal with what it said and what we can do about it. And basically, promoting age-friendly housing development and downsizing options was a very strong thing. Very difficult when people want to stay in the community, but there are no apartments, there is no assisted living, there is no reasonably affordable small house living for people to stay in the community. And one of the things that was pointed out to us is that Littleton, for whatever reason, has been a town which has basically wanted individual houses. They always saw this as the village, country community. And the problem is that what that does is it puts in all the houses of normal-size homes with yards and acreage minimum requirements and so forth. And it is very difficult when a senior has been living here for years to then move into something which doesn't have outside care of their property. It doesn't have a place for them to get assistance when they need it and so forth. And so it's going to mean a change of mindset of the community, of the town. And we're hoping that the master plan people have begun to hear this and to look into that possibility. The strange thing is that if we did do some of that, we would have housing that did not have kids in it, so therefore we wouldn't have the cost, because when you have kids in the school system, you're not paying for all that cost. People who don't have them are paying for it. But if you have a lot of seniors and senior housing, you have a much better situation in terms of that, because they will be paying the taxes.
Taxes than you have to pay out in services.
Right, but they won't, but they won't pay there won't be the need of added services. So that was one of the things which we were talking about, and that's something that the whole town is going to have to deal with and be involved with. The second one was to transportation, and of course we all know that, and the fact that even with the new Crosstown Connect, if they get a bus route in town, there are many, many seniors who need door-to-door service, and as we get more and more seniors, they're going to need more and more service, and we're going to get more and more calls, and we're turning people away now. So there is now a recommendation that we go to the town and ask for two things. One is an additional van, and the second is a half-time driver, 19.5 hours a week, to add to what we have so we won't be turning people away from the things they need. And many times, that's basically the hairdresser appointments, the getting to the store kinds of things, because we try and deal with the medical stuff first. And often people, and one of the things the report pointed out was the number of people who had missed appointments because they couldn't get transportation. And so we're going to have to deal with that. So that's a recommendation we're going to be making in the capital budget for a van and for a driver. And it's all outlined in here. I'm just doing the highlights. Expand knowledge of existing programs. One of the things that was pointed out to us that we're not getting to the community. The number of people who didn't know what we were doing as a COA was really surprising. So we're trying to look at ways that we can deal with getting out the senior broadcaster to everybody maybe 4 times a year, and to get across articles that will let people in the town know what's going on and what the COA is doing. Because many of those people are boomers, and they're going to be getting into that, where they're going to start looking for what options do I have and what things do I have to do. And if they're paying for huge things like going to these, what do they call them, bodybuilding, weight loss.
Gyms.
Fitness centers.
And they can go to the COA for $2 or $3 a session. It can make a significant difference as the income starts to cut down, they go on Social Security. Then there was expanding service offerings and providing more caregiver support. And one of the things that we realized was the number of people who are taking care of someone else. The percentages were just amazing to us. And one of the things that we want to do is to provide support for these people, both with, where they can look for professional support, and also just to give them respite and that kind of thing. So we're looking into that kind of a possibility and what we can do there. And because of the amount of work that Tina has got, and the fact of needing to have more and more oversight of these kind of things, we're going to be asking in the mission budget for 2017 for a part-time social worker for 19 and a half hours a week, who will be dealing with the, and I still want to say...
Social club.
Thank you, the social club. I keep wanting to use the old name. And the fact that we've expanded it, that we have more people than we can put in it, this is all going to be a part of what we're doing. And so we're asking for a half-time person. There will also be some other social issues that will be necessary to give strength to them, and that's going to be a cost of $25,000 to $30,000. And then, of course, the last one is to expand the space for the COA so that we can deal with some of these outreach, transportation, shine counseling programs and so forth, to give them space to work, and also for the programs that we do every day. So this is our initial push.
I would add, it also became really obvious that with the fact that we don't have the housing component in town so that seniors can downsize, many can't really stay in their houses unless they're modified. And so we are also looking into programs to help people finance modification, because it seems that the people who need to modify their homes can't afford to modify their homes in order to stay. And we're not going to have housing built in the next 3 or 4 years, so modification is an important component of what the needs assessment came up with.
I understand you're looking for tax reduction for the low income and disabled. That would help them stay in their home. I wondered, what is it you call low income? 35? Is that what it's written in here?
Are you talking about, now are you talking about the warrant item for the TREAD program? The TREAD program will have some published guidelines that are taken from state guidelines on what's considered low income. But the TREAD program is this will be on the warrant where people can make donations to this fund, and then there's a group that's pulled together, the chairman of the Board of Assessors, the treasurer, 3 parties that are appointed by the Board of Selectmen. COA will be handling the actual application process, and then they will determine how to disperse the funds to those who are either low-income seniors or the disabled in town. But we're going to be using state guidelines to determine those, not our own made-up guidelines.
But that's a special program with no cost to the town. They, even to assign people to low-income housing or to subsidized housing and so forth, many of the people don't even have enough funds to be able to afford to do that. And we were
No,
made
that's why lower taxes would help them.
some, yeah.
And I should point out about the budget request, is that these are budget requests. So we have been asked to do 2 budgets. One is a flat funded budget with no increase at all, and the second is called a mission budget. And so when I go in to talk with FinCom and Board of Selectmen, I will be presenting as part of this mission budget, request for a half-time social worker, request for a half-time driver, and request for a van, as well as some additional monies for some smaller things. No guarantees at all that we're going to get that, because that will be considered in light of all the requests that are coming in from the whole town. And I do want to mention, because this has come up before, I will be continuing to make grant applications, but I have to point out to you that over and over, I met with the Chinya people last week, Chinya 15, which is the Hospital Network Association that we are in, at the MCOA conference. I talked with the DOT people. Over and over and over, these grant programs will not pay for people's salaries. They want to do things, purchase materials for you, purchase vans for you, things like that if you can qualify, but they will almost never pay for salaries. Chinya, for example, will pay for a consultant, but will not pay for the operational cost of a person's salary. So these are really important to understand the nuances of this. People frequently say, why can't you just get a grant for that? Well, you know, it's not like applying for a loan. When I apply for a grant, I have to wait for them to decide where my grant stands in relationship to other grants. So, but I will be pursuing some grant opportunities around this. And if the town does come forward and we get the grants, great, that's even better. Because the last note on this with the needs assessment is, without fail, there will be more seniors and there will be more need.
It just seems as though, I mean, obviously, the needs assessment, I think we all agree, was just amazing. The information, the whole process, everything. And it's a question of setting priorities, I think, too, to get us on track so that we are slowly making gains.
Well, we know where the needs are.
We do, and we know that we can't accomplish everything all at once, and so we need to help, perhaps, put forth suggestions as to what we think the priorities are and where we can have the most impact more quickly. Some things are going to take a long time to
Well,
accomplish.
one of those would be asking for more space. If they're going to put so much money into the kitchen renovation, they're not going to be eager to provide us with another location and monies for an additional space. We're going to have to make do here.
Well, and that might be the case for, who knows? But ultimately, you need to think outside of the box and think long range.
Right.
You never know. But right now, yes, we know it's an issue, but right now, the priorities aren't there. They're
Yeah.
elsewhere, so.
Remember also, Mary, that there are other groups that are here in Town Hall. So if space becomes available and other groups leave Town Hall, we would have the potential to have more space assigned to us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. State recommendations are 5 to 6 square feet per senior in the town, and we're running it like 2.2, I think.
The room downstairs opposite their offices, the big room where they have little kids in there sometime, is that used every day?
Room 123?
Hmm?
Room 123?
The one right across from their office.
It's not used every day, but that does belong to Park and Rec. That's not a
but-
multi-use room.
Is it possible that COA could borrow it once in a while?
There've been times when we have been really busy that I have asked to use that room.
And,
It's never been available whenever I need to use it. Now, I do want to point out that Tina has been quite creative in using some other space within the building. She runs her social anxiety groups frequently in the conference room that's adjacent to the assessors. And your living room be there as well. Those are smallish groups, and that's worked out really well, and it's been very good that we've been able to use that space. Of course, we use 103 whenever we can, but that's really set up as a meeting room. So they don't like us to move the chairs to do active kinds of things. Just to share with you the space issue, the Tai Chi people wanted to start doing a Tuesday evening Tai Chi. They were getting feedback from people that they wanted something during the week, but in the evening for those people who are still working. We were not able to find a space for them on the first floor at all for that. And they're going to start meeting in room 230. We're going to move the furniture off to the sides, and they're going to start the Tuesday Tai Chi group there. I'm going to check and see if there's any possibility of getting some space in one of the schools for them. Nothing was available at all. Cooper room, multipurpose room, nothing.
Wow.
Because they want it on a regular basis for...
They want it every Tuesday at 6 PM, and the scheduling's really tough. I'll talk more about that when we talk about the NCO.
I will point out that in the needs assessment, space for senior center or our community center was not the highest priority that we need to be looking at. I mean, there are much more kind of dire.
It sounds like you have prioritized them sort of in your report, too, as you see that, so I...
And there will be, that's certainly something that we've got to be considering. And, if the library moves out and finds a new library space, that would become available. So it may be that we would be in here, Park and Rec would move out and to one of the other places.
No.
We talked about the fact that Indian Hill is going to be developing its own campus in Groton, and that whole building may become available at some point. There are all kinds of possibilities, but they're not short-term. They're not
No.
anywhere immediate.
I've even heard people say that Donlands may become available.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, too.
That's sad, in a way. Oof.
Rumor is that it's already changed hands, the building.
Oh,
What building? What?
The Donlands building,
Oh,
Oh, that's unfortunate, I think.
especially when you.
Toyota owner has already bought the property,
Who?
and they're leasing to him now.
Bob Moran? Bob Moran bought it?
Yeah, that's what I
That's
understand.
what I heard.
Oh, my goodness. The car dealer.
Yeah.
Across the
I have
street.
not been able to.
Verify
That's a good investment, that's all.
Yeah.
But I do have to point out that there is a town ordinance that prohibits another dealership from coming in.
Well, I don't think it would necessarily be another dealership, it's just a good financial investment.
That's interesting, because when I first moved here, there were 2 dealerships in town.
Mercury.
Well,
No, there
we
was
do some,
Hunter
this is
Ford.
another one of these things where the town makes decisions based on what they conceive to be the ideal community. And sometimes it's not, we've been talking conservation for years, and I'm a great advocate of getting conservation in. But at what point, and one of the discussions that we went into in a number of situations were, at what point do you have so much conservation property that you can't solve the problems that you need? And at some point, for instance, would it be not smart to buy the Cooper property or the other one, K property, and develop it into some kind of town resource rather than conservation? Because the idea of conservation is to keep everything with trees. And that's not necessarily the best use that the town can make of some of its acquisitions.
I heard the K property is under agreement.
Yeah.
We still have the first right of refusal
Refusal,
on
yeah.
that. There has not been a lot of discussion, not a lot of letters like there were for the Cooper property, but yes, indeed, it is under agreement.
To December 29th, they have.
Yeah.
But it's so far from the center of things. The Cooper land is the land you look at and think, oh, gosh, wouldn't that be wonderful to have some senior housing or a community
Do
center?
something down on
Right.
119. But that's not,
Pie in the sky?
that's just kind of realities that you're dealing with. And you gotta get away from totally open conservation and, expanding school budgets when there are fewer kids in the schools. Why do we keep expanding, and yet someone has said, school board's never going to give up money that they have? Well, maybe that's true. Said that on the air.
All right. Any further discussion about the needs assessment and the recommendations that the subcommittee, needs assessment subcommittee has come forth with? And the plans to get that information out there. If not, we can, I think, move on to the Board of Selectmen meeting for the warrant items. Just to get back to you and update you a little, we've talked a little bit about the COA board size. I did attend their meeting that night and explained the situation that, we had 2 board members that chose not to return when their terms expired, and then we've had 2 recent resignations due to people moving out of town, both cases. So,
But the reason
And
we
the-
were seeking the board
Board-
protection was because of the recommendation from the
Correct.
state about best practices.
That's right.
Not
Right.
because we don't have enough people.
no, and that was what I explained to them, that I went through the whole explanation about how 3 years ago, the board took a look at function, and the function of this board, and determined that, according to best practices, the function of the board should be advisory rather than supervisory, and that contributed toward our decision to recommend a reduction. Also, the fact that the recommendation in best practices is the maximum number of people on a board, on a COA board, from the recommendation from the state is that the maximum number should be 9 members, and we had 11. So I explained all of that to them, and they were fine with it all, and it is going to be on the warrant in November.
And the
So-
town report said they recommend
Yes.
the reduction.
Everybody's recommended it.
So, I invite you to attend the meeting. I hope you'll be able to attend the town meeting that night, so that we may have questions about that from townspeople, which is fine. And the TREAD program, Pam went to them about that. So,
We've already talked about it a little bit.
Right.
I don't want to repeat myself, but what I would echo is what Marge is saying, plan to attend the town meeting on the 2nd. People who need a ride, contact us. We're going to have van service available. But remember that we've also made arrangements for special parking now. People can park up closer to the building. They've improved the seating on the floor, to make more seats available on the floor so you don't have to sit in the bleachers, and the portable microphone. They're all opportunities to make it easier for people to be heard and be part of it. And I would ask you to, if people ask you, why do we want to reduce the size of the board, what's this TREAD program, please support those programs and try to explain as best you can what your thinking is about that.
okay. Any questions about that? Those two items? No? All right, moving on. I think I kind of jumped the gun there on the report on the board training and the MSS meeting that Patty brought forth and left with us. So do we have any more questions on that? I think we pretty well covered it in the announcements, so. If not, then, everyone comfortable with moving along to the report on the MCOA conference?
MCOA conference was, as it so often is, just a great resource, terrific opportunity to get information, to network with people, and to get some insight into what people are doing nationwide as well as other parts of the state. I went all 3 days. Friday was the day that I was doing the presentation about transportation, but I got great information. And I'll start with the transportation piece. Even though I was on the panel, I was fascinated to hear the people from DOT, Price Anderson, and the other people talk about the move in funding now away from funds being provided to a COA to buy a van and more towards funding being provided for joint kinds of ventures. So that's why they were very interested in what we're doing with Crosstown Connect, that we have this joint dispatch that's going on with multiple towns, and now we're trying to get a joint bus service going on with multiple towns. I got some good ideas from them. Their round of grant funding is coming up at the end of December, so I plan to apply for something with that. Excellent presentation from the Tufts people about their database, their online database with health information from the health survey. I've pushed that out to all of you by email before now. Pages and pages and pages of data there on things like the kinds of disabilities people have in town, disabilities broken down by age, lots and lots of good data which we can dip into. I went to a great presentation on marketing, and one of the things that she was stressing there is how this younger group that's coming along that are going to become seniors, although that's not the term that they use to describe themselves, how interested they are in social media and various ways of passing information. And those of you who are on our email distribution list every week and our wellness tip distribution by email know that that's thriving. We get lots of interest and feedback in that, and we keep trying to build that up. Print, though, is not dead, and that certainly came out loud and clear in the needs assessment that the majority of people are looking for print information. So the broadcaster is not going away. We'll continue to use the Independent as much as they'll print what we have available. Action Unlimited has been a great one for us to get information out to people. But they're also talking about just real practical kinds of things. I want to do some stuff in terms of posters and signage that I think will help us to address things better. And one of the other that I went to, which is again longer range, was an excellent presentation from someone on the Cape from Orleans about LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transsexual groups, and offering services to those individuals. And they're pointing out some interesting demographic information about that group, that most of the LGBT population that are seniors are aging alone. They've lost their partners. They're very isolated frequently, and they had some great suggestions on how we might be able to team up with other towns to make some services available and to do some outreach to people. And I also attended a really interesting presentation about multi-age space, community centers. It was a combination of some architect people and some very physical space-oriented people, and then a fascinating woman from Natick who was talking about the political side of the change in thinking along those lines. I know at the last conference that I went to, they were already starting to talk about the fact that this boomer group, as they call them, they don't identify with the word senior. And we saw that with the needs assessment. There were people who literally said they don't come to the senior center because they don't think they're seniors. So there was some great discussion there about broadening the age population for the use of a building, not calling it a senior center, but instead calling it a community center, or perhaps naming it after a prominent person, as a way to make better use of the space and also broaden the base of people who would be interested in something like that. We have to be realistic. The fire station is going to come first. We really need the fire station. That's a very pricey item that's coming up for us. If we start talking about, say, 10 years down the road, some kind of a multi-age center, it gives us a much broader voting base of people who would be interested. And the woman in Natick was talking about the physical usage of the center. So the daytime is devoted to the seniors, and they have some dedicated space, and then they have this multi-use space that they can book into, much like we book into the multi-purpose room. Then right after school, they have some school programs for the kids who come in. And then in the evening, they have the adult education programs and programs that are aimed at those people who are working during the day, and any seniors, of course, who want to come back for those kinds of things. But they had some very interesting practical suggestions as well. This idea that the seniors have some dedicated space, the kid programs have some dedicated space, the adult education has some dedicated space, and then you have this shared space, because people do need to use it at different times during the day. And practical suggestions like having a separate entrance for the seniors and a separate entrance for the kids, so that they really felt that it was their center that they were going into, even though once you were in the premises that there was some shared space. The woman in Natick was also talking about the cooperation and the communication that was necessary across different departments. And she's the head of a department that includes the Council on Aging, Park and Rec, Board of Health, Veterans, Conservation, and Open Space, which I thought was a very interesting set of combinations. And all the efforts that they do with transportation also fell under that department. So interesting to just, open up and listen and talk about other kinds of approaches. The conference is so good that what I would like to do is, if not this year, perhaps the following year, build into my formula grant for a board member to be able to come to the MCOA as well. And if we purchased a 3-day pass, potentially 3 board members could come, each one coming on a different day.
I think that's a great idea.
Well, after you guys went to Westminster, I think you got a feel for what it's like when you start talking to people that are involved in other kinds of circumstances. It can be a real growth experience.
2 things. You mentioned people are unaware and information is given to the independent. Excuse me. Years ago, we used to have Mabel Bergman sit in on our meeting, and she took out the classified information and she would submit to the local paper. Also, people don't like to be called seniors. How about older persons?
They are like older either.
Older?
We have to go to Google kind of.
Old?
Not sure exactly what you're
Be
saying about
called
the
senior.
Independent, but I do write a column for the Independent every week that highlights special programs we're running and new programs, as well as mentions the routine programs. Is that what you mean?
I think the COA does very well compared to the other towns. We have many, many programs. There's no shortcomings here. We do very good.
Interesting thing is that AARP, if you've noticed the magazine in the last year and a half,
This came up
they
at
have
the
gone
conference.
completely away from discussing it as a senior magazine.
You know what the RP used to stand for?
Retired.
Retired people.
Retired persons, and
Persons.
they dropped that completely.
Right. It is much more, I don't know what they've done in particular, but in general, you just have a feeling that it's a magazine for everybody 50 and up, and maybe even 40 and up,
Right.
which is very interesting.
They have done a huge rebranding to completely shift the focus
Right.
away from retired.
Right.
And interestingly enough, Emmett spoke to this whole concept of a community structure at his, the thing we went to in Westminster that day. And he kind of spoke quite a bit about that too. He was saying how it's so important for COAs in a center even to have, for instance, a fitness center that people in their 40s and 50s would come in and use, and you get them into the environment. And so he was talking a lot about how that would all work. So it's not just, out there. I mean, Emmett's also putting it forth, too.
Who is the MOCA conference aimed at for attendees?
It appeared to be a lot of staff who work in council on aging, directors. I saw outreach people there. There were board members there, definitely, who were attending. Who else have you
But
seen?
what do they aim at? Do they,
Minuteman goes and the other ASAPs.
Right, sometimes the agencies have people. And of course, the presentations are not just people from centers, it's a broad range. So UMass was represented. They did a couple of different kinds of presentations. There were special presentations around nutrition. Some of the keynote speakers were definitely from outside of Bailiwick. The Secretary of Massachusetts for Health and Human Services was a speaker.
I just get a sense that their fee structure is such that they're expecting paid staff who have program and training budgets to be able to pay for it. To have an individual go and pay $309, whatever it was, is rather strong.
Well, that's why I think the idea of having perhaps one admission for the 3 days be
Well,
purchased, and then I could go one day, another board member, I wouldn't be chair then, another board member could go another day, and you get more information, you make sure you don't attend the same topics you wouldn't, on different days, and that would be a great way to get us there.
I'd rather have them see something, they have a fee structure that allows board members to go for the entire conference and get the full roll of it and realize how much is possible.
You have to go to different, if I understood
Yeah, we
it
don't have-
correctly, it's set up differently, and so there's so many opportunities, Pam couldn't even
understand.
get to all of these sessions
But
that
we
are
don't
going
talk
on.
enough together to share the information that we have, that we get. So it really needs to be gotten by everybody
Well,
in.
we can start small and get there, I think.
I don't think we can send the whole board.
No, I don't either, but I'm thinking if we could get one, admission fee for the 3 days and 3 different board members, or even maybe somebody could go a half a day and another person go the other half, I don't know, but anyway.
That's why I always have hopes for the Westminster type of structure that in the COA training that will be that way, and it doesn't end up that way.
I think what you get out of the Westminster training is equivalent to the cost of admission.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
yes,
and
yeah.
at the conference, for them to pull off what they pull off
point.
takes a lot of money.
Oh, I'm sure.
Is it always in Sturbridge?
It is in Sturbridge every other year, and the years in between, it's in Falmouth?
Falmouth,
Falmouth.
Oh, okay,
It's always that long weekend, too.
Yeah, it's always the Columbus Day weekend.
okay.
We keep trying to get them to go to Disney World, but they won't.
You notice in your manuals, you have the MCOA conference outreach, there was a handout, October 2014, and so that was a year ago, that we included in there, and I don't know that we have anything from this year that's a summary that would be vital or interesting, but, so, take a look at, we do try to get the information out anyway, so, because that is in the handbook from a year ago.
And I generally push out by email
Right.
the MCOA information that I receive. So feel free to reach it back out to them, Bob, and tell them that you think they ought to offer some cheaper stuff. They do offer some trainings and other kinds of things that are much less expensive and in some cases free. Those are usually very, very specific.
All right. Do you have any more?
No, I don't want to say
Nope.
more about the COA. You're going to hear more about it in COA conference as I come to you with different kinds of ideas and things, initiatives that I want to put forward.
Great. I'm glad you got to go.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, under new business, the membership subcommittee updates to the board manual. We have touched on that, and I just would like to briefly suggest to you that you have a new table of contents. Use that as your guide as you're going through your manual to make sure that you are replacing things and putting things in, because, you know, it might be a little confusing to you between the handouts that were for the meeting and the handouts that go into your manual. We didn't clip them all together.
But
So,
generally, the ones for the manual are the ones with the holes in them.
right, generally, and you'll also notice the first one is a new listing of your board members. So start there and just take a look, get your table of contents into it, and then make sure that you're flipping the pages, that you've got everything. And if you have a new something, you know, like the open meeting guide, take out the old one and put the new one in. So, unless, do you, membership
No.
subcommittee, have anything else to add to that?
That's all.
Okay. All right, moving on then, to B, process for reviewing prospective board members. It seems as though this is a great opportunity to take a look and think this through a little, because we will be doing that shortly. So, Sandy, I know, Susan, I mean, sorry. I started out with the right letter, and I know your name is Susan, I apologize.
I don't care, Sandy sounds cute.
No, but it wouldn't be you. So,
Well, I had brought up last meeting that I just thought it was a little bit unfair that the board doesn't really get to talk about the candidate or bring any information that they might have from having served with the person before, so I sat down and kind of did a sketchy protocol. And then Pam sent me a bunch of information about what the state has to say about candidates for boards, and so we included it in the meeting today to talk about and to maybe come up with something we can vote on. So essentially, the applicant does what you said. They get their application from the Board of Selectmen and turn it in. And then, once we are notified that there's an applicant, Pam will put together a bit of information, job description from the manual about what it requires to be on the board, what's required of you, your commitment, and the ethics of it and all of that. And then if they still want to be on the board, they'll come in for an interview with us. And at that time, the state says we should be trying to ascertain their awareness of the issues at hand for our senior community or our glamorous community or whatever we're going to become since we're not seniors anymore.
Mature.
Yes, our mature community. Well, some more than others. And, you know, the typical questions that I was asked, what's your skill set that you're bringing? What do you think you're going to bring to the board? But also, we should be digging a little deeper as to, you know, why do you want to be on the board? Well, I like old people isn't, you know, good enough, because there are people who probably will be applying who have an agenda that isn't service-oriented, that is service to themselves more than service to the community of elders. So we need to be a little more probing, and when we get the chance to interview them. And then one of the things that was interesting, Pam and I were talking about, is they wanted us to come up with a scenario and ask the person, in this scenario, how would you react? That's a very hard thing to come up with, a scenario where you could really get at the meat of. But Pam came up with a couple of good ones, and I like the one about the board is discussing purchasing items from a local business person. You know the business owner and have knowledge that you obtained confidentially from gossiping with their wife or something, and do you say it? I mean, it's confidential information. Do you say it at the board? That would tell you a lot about a person, whether they just go, oh, yeah, of course I would tell you, or, oh, that's a dilemma. I don't know, what I would do in that circumstance. Then we ask the candidate if they have any questions about being on the board, and they shouldn't have a lot because we've given them the job description, but they might have questions regarding the job description. I know that when we started talking about the job description, there were people on the board at that time who weren't thrilled to hear what was expected of them, and they were already on the board.
This, of course, exposes the person, because this is done in public meetings.
Right.
This part of it is.
It's a part of this, it would say, be a part of this meeting. And then you would go into executive session. So
That's
you
right, we
would now-
have that here.
So now you've exposed the person without recommending or not recommending.
Right, because we don't know. When you guys when you just voted, oh yeah, let's have her, let's take the live body, I was thinking, what if Barry Kershaw,
You're talking about your live body, right?
right, when it was my turn, Barry Kershaw and I did many real estate deals together, and he said very laudatory things. But what if he had had a bad experience with me? What if he didn't think I had integrity? What if he wasn't going to say that on television in front of me? He didn't
couldn't.
have that opportunity.
Well, and he really couldn't without it being a
Right.
problem.
And that's-
All I was thinking was the repercussions of you have the person there, then you go into executive session and you say no.
Well, we covered that, Bob.
I know, it just says, if there's no letter is sent, but it doesn't say what you do to the chair, to the person you've done it.
Well, because the ultimate decision isn't ours. The ultimate decision belongs to the Board of
I
Selectmen.
fully appreciate that.
They're looking for us to either make a recommendation.
Recommendation or not a recommendation, and if we don't recommend, then either someone from the board or the chair's going to go to the selectmen meeting and they're going to say, oh, we didn't get a letter on such and Susan Dunn, and
Or Mark.
poor Marge is going to have to say, well, the board didn't recommend, or we don't endorse her as a candidate, but the board of selectmen can override us.
That's correct.
And, sometimes you have to grow up and pull on your big person panties, and there are some people who aren't going to be right for the board who might want to be on it.
Well, they're not
Oh, I
knocking
totally
on our
understand
door.
Yet.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be the ones that least understand what you've just done.
Right.
Before we jump to that, I do want to make sure that everyone's clear that in the open meeting law, they lay out 10 reasons that you can go into executive session. And on page 11, it very clearly states to consider or interview applicants for employment or appointment. So there's
So it
no
could all be
question.
done in a,
No,
No,
well, we can do as much or as little as we want in the executive session.
that's what I meant.
Yeah. So you're suggesting that perhaps we want to,
I don't
at
know.
the point that we do the interview.
I'm just, right now, I'm just stating my gut reaction to someone coming in, and yes, there might be someone who is not appropriate for the board, and I would feel that way, but to put the public person on public display in an open meeting, and then to go into executive session and say, we don't want anything to do with him or her,
You'd rather take
got
somebody on the
repercussions.
board that we don't want, that we don't think is a good fit, or
Or
doesn't
that
know
we
what
couldn't
they're
work
doing,
with, or we know doesn't do their job. I mean,
doesn't understand their job.
you have to have the interview before you can go
Right.
to make a decision,
and
anyway.
it's,
I didn't-
are you saying the interview should be in an
I
executive
think the
session?
whole thing, my reaction would be, for both the person and the board, to do the whole process in an executive session, and then make a recommendation, not make a recommendation.
So you invite them to interview,
They'll be more comfortable with being rejected if the interview process wasn't on the air?
Mhm.
do you feel
I
better
would think so.
too?
But,
But how do you do, you go into executive session to interview, and then how do you get the person, you just thank them for their time and you,
Center one.
and send them away, and you're still in executive session to talk about them? Well, that could work.
What I'm thinking is,
That's a
just
protection of privacy.
the
yeah.
problem of exposing the person. When I was in human resources for 25 years. I was an SPHR. And you didn't hire candidates, you didn't interview candidates in an open forum.
Okay.
You
I don't think
interviewed
you
them
should.
individually, and you told them one way or the other, yes, we would accept you, or we won't accept you, and, you know,
That's it.
right, and, you know, this is where you get government involved, and
You can't do the interview in executive session.
No,
I'm sorry.
no,
I
you
went
can't.
on and I read the rest of it, and there's, the last statement says, if the body chooses to conduct a review of applicants itself, it may not do so in executive session. So you can't do the interview in
I didn't
executive
think you
session.
could.
But we can discuss, we
You can
don't
do the
have to
discussion.
hire them.
We can talk to them, we can answer their questions, we can ask them questions.
But you can't interview them in executive session.
And how, but what if we make it clear up front that the interview is going to be at a board meeting which is televised, but the decision isn't going to be made at the interview?
Well, you know, you look at what the selectmen do, I've been there, I think I've been there when they've had, and they go into executive session frequently.
Yes, they do,
and it
to
has
talk
be-
about personnel
Right, and it has to be posted that they're in executive session. That's not even something that you
Right.
can just do. It has to be
Right.
planned in advance. And
And we would be planning it based on interviews. We would
And they
note it
also
at the end of
have,
our meeting.
I mean, I've been there when they've had people come forward, you know, about a position, but they talk to them, they let them ask them questions, and I'm thinking it would be very similar, wouldn't it? I would imagine.
I don't remember seeing us advertising that we're looking for candidates.
We don't do the advertising.
No, we don't.
The Board of Selectmen
Selectmen
does
does
because
it.
they're the appointing authority.
And remember, they cannot do any advertising at this point for now for us, because we don't know what the size of our board is going to be until after the town
Right.
meeting.
well, I don't understand that, because they could be advertising for candidates, and we take the number of open positions, and,
Well,
Truthfully, I think it has more to do with whether they want to pay for an ad.
Right.
So I think they usually wait until they have several openings, then they pay for an ad and say, this is open, this is open, this is open, this is open.
I know.
that's probably true, too.
And I've been talking to people, and maybe
And that's
you all
the-
have too, talking to people saying that we are going to have openings on the board, and would you be
We
interested?
can do that, and that's another reason I tried to explain that it's important you tell people, get your application in. It will be kept on file. It won't,
Right.
even though nothing has been published yet.
They're all busy.
Best
Everybody's
case
busy that's
scenario, we
good.
had a half a dozen candidates, and we could only choose
Busy
two.
people.
Yeah, that will happen.
That would be fine, yeah.
But,
And we definitely want to have that discussion in executive session.
yeah. I just thought that maybe a protocol for how we do it, it was time to get that kind of organization.
I don't disagree with this protocol, because I assume it meets the open meeting law, but I see
The human,
as I usually do, all of the personal implications of it, and resentments and frustrations.
The only other solution would be to just take anybody who applies and to just figure, then we don't even bother to interview them, we just take them.
Leave it up to the selectmen to decide.
I don't like that suggestion.
but we're the people that are going to be working with these people.
That's right.
And wouldn't
That's
you?
why they ask for our recommendation, is because that presumably we will recommend people that we think are good fits.
And I
for
think
the-
that's part of our responsibility, is to make sure that
Well, I'm
we
an
do.
advisor, I'm not a processor now, as of 2 years ago.
But it is part of our responsibility as a board to try to put together and to fill vacancies with, you know,
Qualified.
qualified people who have sincere interest in working and,
And who are willing to do the work, who are willing to be on subcommittees, who are willing to participate, who are willing to attend meetings, who who aren't applying just to aggrandize themselves or add their COA board in Littleton to their dossier.
Well, I think we had a new person who joined our board recently who didn't know that we met during the day. I mean, sometimes it's just real
Right,
simple
it's
stuff
something that
gets
just-
missed.
Right.
And that's why I think the idea of getting the job description from the manual at the time of application is almost silly that we haven't been doing, because I kind of really didn't know what was expected of me except board meetings on 1:30 on Mondays,
Did I tell you? You wouldn't apply.
Yeah, now we have this nice job description, we might as well make good use of it.
Right. People worked hard to come up with them, and
Diane is very knowledgeable about the open meeting
Actually,
law and
if
executive
they
sessions and
get
everything.
this,
And she's,
when they apply, hand them this book.
That's it.
Get through this and still want to.
right. Well, then maybe we wouldn't need an executive session.
Here's your study guide. Marge, you started to say something about Diane.
Diane is very knowledgeable, and I know she has run me
Read this and
through.
then there'll be a test.
She has run me through the operating in executive session once. I don't remember it all because I didn't have to deal with it at the time. It's just like everything else, you don't always retain it all unless you're going to be using it right away.
Who's this?
Diane Crory. She's very knowledgeable about it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes. So, in fact, she was the one, actually, that clued us in that when the subcommittee, membership subcommittee was making copies for your manuals, she happened to see that we had the old copy, and she was nice enough to say, oh, guys, you need the newest copy of this, so. And she's a great help, so if you're really that uncomfortable about it, Bob, we can see if she might help explain things
Well,
any better.
The idea was
You meet in
to,
executive session or you don't meet in an executive sestion. He's uncomfortable with telling people that we don't want them on the board.
Well,
Like I said, the only solution to that is to just take everybody who comes, and in which case you don't need a procedure. You
well,
just
you
let people
know,
apply.
it's not pleasant, but in my past, in interviewing staff for a rehab department, I've had to not take everybody.
right.
And there are things, when you were talking about the scenarios, I've done that myself many a time to get an idea of how a person would react, and you can learn a lot about a person by giving them a scenario to deal with and to answer to. So,
I just think that we could go through this. People can say, I don't like that part, I do like that part. I mean, the idea is that as a board, we decide how we're going to go about filling the needs of the board. And yeah, it is hard. It's hard to be told no for a job, and that's never happened to me, thank heavens. But it would be hard to be told no, but it's life. You applied, that doesn't mean it's automatic.
well, the first time I applied to be on the board, the selectmen didn't appoint me.
Ah, they had too many applicants,
There were
or?
two of us for one position.
That's different. That's a whole
I
different
just
No,
story.
it
can't
isn't
think you're
different. You have-
televised with these interviews. Fine. do
They
whatever you
interviewed me,
wanna do,
it was
but-
televised, they interviewed me and the other
Televised, yeah.
They interviewed me and the other candidate. No one from the Council on Aging Board was present that night, and they
Did the board
chose...
interview you guys? The COA board?
No.
Just the Board of Selectmen.
No,
Yes,
that-
the OA board didn't
Basically,
even
what
bother to
happened was
interview.
that the board, that they, at that point, whether we were right or wrong, the board got the names of the people, and we just said, yeah, that sounds like it would be a good person, and we made the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen saying yes.
And then you were told to go to the Board of Selectmen meeting, and they asked you questions. The Board of Selectmen did, and they made a decision. And they were forced into making that decision that night between the two of us. So, I just waited until there was an opening, and I applied again. See,
Right.
can't get rid of me easily.
But you weren't deterred by the fact that you were on television? and,
No.
Yeah, because it's a huge viewing audience for us at 7 on Saturday morning, I'm sure.
But that didn't bother me. you
No,
know. So, I mean, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I thought, wait a minute, this is what happened when I applied. So I don't see anything wrong with it personally, but I'll double check it myself with Diane to make sure, but I think this is the way it should be happening. I think it's wonderful, that you put it down though on paper for us. And if we do take a vote on something like this, then it needs to go into our manual.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If we're going to use this procedure, then we need to vote to use this procedure and then follow it.
Correct, I think so, because we need to, and we do need to agree on it, because there's no sense in having something unless we all agree and we are going to adhere to it, so.
Should we add to it that the interviewee or the applicant be notified that their interview at our board meeting will be televised, but the decision about their acceptance or denial will be in executive session, and they'll be notified by the Board of Selectmen?
We're
Or
never going to get anybody.
I don't think so, I think,
I don't think that's true, but I'm not sure that you have to do that, because they know that they're coming before the board at a regular meeting, and they also should know that all regular meetings are open meetings and they're televised.
I agree.
If this is the procedure we're going to use.
does this have to be a unanimous vote, Pamela?
I don't think so.
Well, even if it says on here, it says you have three choices. The vote is yes, the letter is presented to the chair of the Board of Selectmen, or the vote is no.
No, I'm talking about our voting on accepting or not accepting this procedure,
Oh.
No,
this
it's majority.
protocol.
No, I think it's a majority vote like anything else. Like I said, I don't really have a problem with the written procedure. I just deal with sensitivity to people, and that's not really reality. And yes, I can think of people who would be very resentful if they were.
But do you
Can
really?
you think of anyone who would not be a good candidate to be on this board? Whether it's realistic that they would appear before us. Can you think of anyone you know in town who, if they...
I can think of two right off the bat.
If they appeared here and said that they were going to be on this board, that you would think, I don't think this person knows what they're getting into, or I don't think this person would be a good fit.
Or would
This person
contribute.
has the personality to be on the board. But
What's
that's,
that?
I said, I can see myself thinking that this person does not have the kind of
Right,
personality to be
can
on the
you
board.
picture somebody like that? So what would you do if they appeared, they filled out the application, and we went through the interview process? Would you want to just say, let's take them, it's a warm body?
No. If I went through this procedure, I would do exactly what this says. I would make a decision one way or the other. But I also would know that there are going to be some people who are going to come, go through that procedure and be very angry because they don't understand that they wouldn't be a good candidate.
I
Just
think
say they're
saying
not
no-
qualified.
Well, I think saying no is not a decision to be made lightly. But
Right.
also, saying yes is not a decision to be made
Right.
lightly.
Right.
This
Qualified.
group is the group that is advocating for 2,000 people in this town who need a voice. There is no other group that speaks for the seniors.
Barbara, what do you think? You've been quiet.
Barbara?
Yeah, you, Barbara.
Well, I go along with the procedure, but I have the same feeling that Bob has. How do you say it? Although I know 3 or 4 people who, would not qualify, but would be interested, but
Those would be the words I would use. I'm sorry, you're not qualified.
qualified. Could be.
Leave it open that way.
I
And
don't see any
actually,
procedure here for talking to the person after the vote.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
well, if I was thinking that down at number 9, you have, if the vote is no, no letter is sent. Now,
That's to
that,
the board. That's to the CO, that's to the Board of Selectmen. But what about to the candidate?
well, that's what I was getting up to, because that made me think of the candidate, and there has to be a way to, either a letter needs to be sent out from the board, the chair, you know, saying,
Thank you for your time.
thank you very much and for your interest in, et cetera. We can work on one that we could put together to bring to you all to take a look at and see if you were comfortable with.
Write it down, write it down.
And I think that, you know, your comment is about, we didn't feel you had the qualifications that we're looking for at this time.
I think
At
the
this
chair
time?
should write that letter.
Yeah, well, and that's, in my original protocol, which we then fixed, it sort of threw it all at the chair. The chair gets to notify.
But, and that, you know, well, I think the chair, I might not be the chair, you know, and who knows? But anyway, I think the chair should be the one going and meeting with the selectmen. And I think the chair needs to be present at a lot of things, so that the COA is present. You're representing the group, and you need to be there. So,
No, well, I'm not worried about the Board of Selectmen, I'm worried about the
individuals.
Individuals.
I understand that, and no one wants to hurt somebody.
Right.
And we don't want to alienate anyone.
And you
How
don't
do I want people on the board who don't contribute?
That's correct.
Or who don't understand what they're getting into.
Right. So I think we can do that, and I think we can put together a letter,
And we can
certainly
be
to
tactful,
explain.
and we can be kind.
Yes.
Saying no isn't an unkind thing if it's done well. I mean, it can be unkind because, oh my God, you want to be on our board? Oh, please, no. Spare me.
But that's life, also. Having to say no is part of life. We
Yeah.
have to all say no at different times. And we also have to deal with the person and explain why we've said no. So I see it very little difference in it, in a way. I mean, yes, this is a board, and we're talking about a different thing, but it's part of life.
This is not a perfect procedure, but I would move that we accept this as the procedure for interviewing candidates.
Would you like to add in there that a letter gets sent from this board to the candidate?
Right. I'd like to
Yeah,
see that
that would be
added.
fine.
I think so. I think that's only courteous. So, do I hear a second?
We'd be voting, so we'd know the answer when you send the letter. You know what you're going to be saying, so there's no problem.
I didn't think I should.
Next.
Pardon me, go ahead.
I was going to second, but I don't know if I should since I proposed it.
Why not?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
you can second it.
I second.
All those in favor?
There you go.
Okay, it's unanimous.
We're going to be nice, Jeannie. We won't be mean.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't even have a problem, I just have a problem with being interviewed on television.
Well, we don't have, I mean, well, that's just how it goes. We can't change that part.
I wouldn't want to be.
You were.
No, but that was just that one little thing, I mean, but
Well-
here you're interviewing, I don't know, I just can't see it, well, I would never do it, but.
We actually had a person withdraw because they did not want to be on televised meetings.
That's true, I remember
I
that.
don't mind the televised meeting, it's just the interview, because if you're going to interview me on anything, I completely forget everything. I really do. I mean, even when I went for my divorce, I forgot my name and everything. My lawyer had to speak for me. I just couldn't do it.
Well, now,
did
if we
fine.
interview
You
her
went to the-
now, she'd never make the board.
You went to the Board of Selectmen, because
Yeah,
I
but
went with you
I
then.
just said as little as possible.
But you did, okay, you didn't forget the little as possible. You remembered it.
But I mean,
Johnson, come forward.
I didn't want to be interviewed.
All right, so we have a motion. Did you get the results of the vote,
Let
Bob?
me,
Okay,
He's busy.
all right. But you did okay, Jean, I recall that, so. It's not a pleasant thing, and, I mean, the interview is not that personal that it would be looking for
No.
anything that's,
We just, is according to the back, you want to know why. Why do you want to be on the board? And I like old people, isn't a good enough reason. And there are ways of getting at, are you on the board so you can sell us Avon? Are you on the board so that you can drum up business for your husband?
Well, it doesn't matter, we already voted on it, so let's
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, we can.
we're waiting for Bob.
Bob is,
I'm going to read this to you.
this call, and it keeps reminding me that it's my son.
Okay, this is what I've got. The procedure was voted affirmatively to be used for interviewing candidates for the purpose of the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, period. The procedure will add a sentence to note a letter will be sent to the candidate by the chair regarding our decision. That sound like what we did?
That is.
Perfect. Is it called a straw man procedure?
No, straw man just means that it's a draft.
We'll,
Just call it procedure.
a
Okay.
procedure. And we will,
What about
All
calling
right,
it
then
a
I'm gonna say-
protocol for selecting instead of
I'm
procedure?
going to say the presented
See number 9.
procedure
But we're changing that.
was voted affirmatively.
protocol. She's suggesting it be called a protocol.
Protocol instead of procedure, don't you think? A
Or
protocol?
policy.
The presented-
policy.
Policy is probably even better, because it might be more easily understood.
the presented protocol,
It can always be reviewed.
how do you spell protocol?
Protocol.
Okay, it's three O's, okay. All right, the presented protocol was voted affirmatively to be used in interviewing candidates for the purpose of recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. The procedure will add a sentence to note a letter will be sent to the candidate.
And each time you have procedure in there, change it to protocol.
Yeah, okay.
I think policy is a different thing than protocol.
Right, it is.
Protocol is a step-by-step, whereas a policy is a much more fleshed out.
May I just ask a question, Susan? Could you, I've gotten, after we've gone through, updating things in these in the manuals, could you put a date down at the bottom of it so we know when it was,
Voted on?
voted on
Today's-
and
today's
adopted? Yes, and that way we'll know if it needs to be reviewed,
Okay.
It's easier to keep track of when we have dates on the bottom.
Okay, all I've said on the straw man, let me read the whole thing. Process for interviewing respective board members. See the straw man procedure paper on selecting the candidate for the board, for the COA board sheet, which is attached. And so this whole thing would be attached to the minutes. The presented protocol was voted affirmatively to be used for interviewing candidates for the purpose of recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. The protocol will add a sentence to note a letter would be sent to the candidate by the chair regarding our decision. Okay. Good.
Okay, and once the sentence gets added, and when you're doing it, you put the date, and then we'll just, the backside wouldn't go in the manual.
No, this is just,
Yeah.
That's to help you guys.
Right.
When we're interviewing, figure out what you want to ask and what you're trying to ascertain.
and Susan, you might want to point out the last bullet item on that back page.
Okay.
Just reading it.
It says, "Don't be afraid to turn people away. By turning away candidates that don't fulfill the criteria that you have developed, you are ensuring that you get only the best candidates accepted onto your board. The more screening you do, the more success you will have at creating a successful board, and the more people will want to be part of it."
I think the whole 2 pages should go into the manual because that's all part of the procedure which we referred to.
Okay.
All right. That's fine. That's a good
But it's got to
idea.
have a sentence
Well,
added.
that's a good idea.
And this came from state, the back part came from state on how to,
Do you have it in digital form, so we can add the sentence?
no, but Miss Pammy will do that for me.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Well, no, it actually would be helpful, because as a board member, when you're preparing to come to a meeting, you should review this and give some thought to questions you might
Right,
be able to
especially if we know
ask.
we're interviewing and-
Correct, because
Yes.
you want to be prepared. Don't come and just sit.
and say,
And this mission
Oh.
statement in here, this is from our annual report.
Right.
good.
Why do we have C on here, Minuteman Senior Services Annual Report? Haven't we already gone over that
jumped it.
twice?
Oh,
Yeah, we jumped to that.
Well, we also had it in the report on board training
Oh, that was Mary's attendance at the board training.
and MSS meeting.
Yeah, she went to an annual meeting,
That was-
Oh, okay.
which is different from the report.
right. But the annual report is the one you asked questions about.
Wow.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, we already did
And
do
we've done that.
So we
We're
can just take that off, because that was in the announcements.
Well, we can't,
I can't take it off.
you can't take it off the agenda, but you
Why
can,
not?
We just say
because the
it's already-
agenda's
off the
been
minutes.
published. Well,
Just
no, you
skip it.
can't change the agenda. Legally, it has to have, you can just say it was addressed under the announcements.
Announcements. Yeah.
You can't remove it.
I could.
Well, yes, you can, but then you'd be asked to put it back. So, where are we? We've gotten into some lengthy discussions here, where we need to get our reports done. Are you all set, Bob?
Okay, budget reports, nothing spectacular, everything is there, both on the Mart report and the, what we expended for the month, and the Mart report and the office report. There were nothing extraordinary, it just added the September figures, unless anybody has any questions. This just shows us how much we've expended and how much we have left.
We had quite a jump in ridership
Yeah.
from August to September.
Everyone settles back in September and gets back to doctor's appointments and...
What is recreation services? $1,000.
Recreation services are all of the different things that, all the different programs that we subsidize and so forth and so on.
I did too, for a minute.
We pretty much went out of the other funds that we were using, that they had been putting money into, so that we're back to using the budget. For a while, you were using oddball accounts that had money in them for recreation, for,
Well, at the end of the year, I always go to those accounts to try to make things come out. Actually, Bill, Bob, I kind of like keeping a healthy balance in my 200 account for recreation, because that's where we pay for everything.
yeah.
You know, that we don't have any activities that generate enough money to cover the cost of the people who run them.
But that's why there was nothing, it wasn't really a great jump. We were using other funds to, which were there for that purpose, that we've been accumulating over the years.
Yeah.
And so it came to $1,000 this month. Hope it's not gonna be $1,000 every month, but, because otherwise we run out of money very quickly.
And who's professional services? You got paid, huh?
Professional services are if you need something of a professional nature from someone, then there's $300 to use.
Yeah, but we spent it.
No, we haven't spent
Oh,
any.
no, we didn't. No, we didn't. I take that
More
back.
training education, if we have some training and education that we want people to,
Right.
we could have used a portion of that, if Pam decided that it was worthwhile to send someone to Mocha, but mostly it's training of staff and drivers and so forth. Well, the drivers would come under,
You're going to see money out of that the next month for the MCOA, for example.
okay? And the other one is the funds budget, and you can see that where we have, what we have in funds. Don't worry about the minuses. For instance,
Minus would mean plus. I didn't get that.
Transportation gift fund has $4,660 in it. COA newsletter donations has $21 in it. The van fund has $15,000 in it, $15,500. The emergency assistant is something that you deal with, right, Tina? Yeah. So that's the outreach gift. That just,
That's the money from the Friends to pay for Tina's 2 hours a week. And they're usually behind in making that payment.
oh, okay, that's why it's showing in minus. It also comes in
Get
the
this copy.
fourth line, the Friends Outreach Coordinator.
And then the same thing with the formula grant,
I don't have
that
that
lags. We
Right, the
spend
formula
money
grant.
Before it comes.
Because it hasn't, we haven't gotten any of that. We're paying it out every month, but we don't get it till,
Oh. I had one of my front desk people put this package, put the package together.
Thank you.
What else?
I didn't.
And this recreation
Thank
fund,
you.
COA recreation fund balance, 13,093. The 200,2263.
That's the money I was talking about, my 200 account. When money comes in and I put it on a turnover sheet, when cash comes in, like from Stretch and Flex, it goes on a turnover sheet and it goes into that account. When I pay out to pay for the person who's running Stretch and Flex, I take some of it from that account and some of it from the recreation account.
Okay, but that's, if it's got $13,000 in it, it's still got a very, very substantial amount.
Like I said, I'd like to keep a little bit of a cushion in there.
That's not a little bit of a cushion, that's a huge
Well,
cushion.
in the wintertime, when those groups drop down and there's only 10 or 12 people who attend, the price doesn't go down for the person who runs the group,
Yeah. Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah, because right now the credits are higher than the debits. Okay.
Yeah, we've had really good attendance. We got a real bump in August and September.
Okay, very good. So those are your reports.
Okay.
Now, I need to apologize to you that I do not have a written director's report for you. It has taken a tremendous amount of energy to get this packet together this week, and with the conference and everything. I will be sending you one by email that'll have the usual figures, transportation, what's happening at the meal site. Essentially, you know, we're to the max. We're still running 2 vans a day. Meals on Wheels continues to just creep up slowly in terms of the numbers. Attendance at the congregate lunch, which is the lunch program down there, is kind of down a little bit, but the social club has bumped her numbers up, so they've actually kind of stayed pretty stable. But in reality, the number of people that you have over there for lunch is not what it had been downstairs. And of course, we've lost all of the extra bump that we used to get on the Thursday special lunch.
Right.
Hopefully that'll be back before we know it. In terms of transportation, I should point out that we just hired a new driver. Good guy, great experience. Previously had driven 18-wheelers, so he's very experienced at driving, you know, big vehicles. Because he's a driver, knows the area, knows the routes, and starting this week has finished all of his training, got through everything with flying colors.
What's George's last name?
Ogilvy. Ogilvy. George Ogilvy is out on family medical leave right now, and I don't know when he's going to be coming back, so I use one of my on-call physicians to get someone to help us with the crunch that we're in with the scheduling. What else do I usually tell you about? We've already talked about the MCOA conference, so you're filled in on all of that. I told you about the kitchen. What else can I say? We're wicked busy. Tina is just, her feet barely touch the ground because we've just had crisis after crisis with people to deal with in town. And
I know, it's been a tough 2 weeks, last 2 weeks.
It has been tough. There's been a lot going on for people. And of course, now we're coming into that time of year. Tina's getting calls already from people who suddenly discovered that they're out of oil, and SMOC will not pay before November 1st.
Oh,
And no one's received their verification letters yet that they're on board for their recertification. Those should be going out later this week.
So the oil companies won't advance anyone oil on the basis of knowing that they're going to be reimbursed.
So what are we doing? What are we using?
We're using that fund that you were talking about, and you were asking where that money
Okay.
goes, and
And we get does the grant from, Vinnie Cooper go into that fund?
Well, it's not the fuel assistance, the SMOC fuel assistance or the Good Neighbor Energy Fund. Vincent Cooper Fund is separate, yeah, and that's.
But that's
managed by
also
the town.
used for,
That's also used, yeah.
okay.
we're fortunate that we have resources, very fortunate
We are
to
very
help them out.
fortunate that we have resources to help people out.
That's
And, you know,
right.
sometimes it's $150 is all somebody needs to bridge the gap, to make the difference between being able to get by and not get by.
Especially now, in light of the last 2 nights.
A little chilly.
Yes.
A little chilly around the edges, but I will get you a written report with numbers on them.
Thank you.
Attendance remains pretty high for events, although you heard that the Friends were very disappointed at the attendance on the Oktoberfest. We'll do
That's
everything we can to help them out.
Highly unusual, though. Highly unusual.
We'll help them out with the veterans lunch.
Okay, thank you. Tina, you're on, finally.
Now, I don't know if it was just my packet, but my packet had August report in it, so this is September's, so.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay, that's fine, they look similar.
Okay.
September.
Oh, we should probably mention that we're going to,
And one for Bob.
we're going to start collecting outreach statistics in a different fashion, so that we'll be able to quite literally say who actually is seen by Tina.
Oh,
And it's going to mean a little more work on Tina's end.
you're not.
That's what she means.
Well, I think once you get used to it, there actually won't be any more work for you, Tina.
Say that again, what is it
We're
going
going to
to
start
do?
collecting the...
Not names of people because of privacy,
Yes,
but,
it will be the names of people, but it will be in the database,
oh, okay.
which is secured by password. So for the first time, we'll be able to really quite literally say how many different people are served by
Right.
various programs.
But there's no need to bring the names to the
No,
board.
no,
I just
no,
want to
you'll
make
still-
that,
You'll still see this.
right, I just want to be sure
that.
that's clear to people that might be watching and thinking their privacy would be,
No.
yeah, no. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you know, as Pamela has mentioned, and with the weather getting colder, we are getting our share of calls from people in need of oil now that can't wait till the November 1st approval process for them to be able to get their first delivery. We also agree that that home modification loan program is very important, but for the speaker that we were to have last week that needed to cancel due to an audit, out of the 7 people that had signed up, 6 of them needed repairs, not modifications to adapt a bathroom into a handicap bathroom or a ramp. And they made it very clear to me that that program is no longer in existence that does the repairs. So we're actively trying to find a program that can keep people, some sort of a interest-free loan that could help people repair their home. But we did have one that would be able to take the modification, that would help with his medical condition and keep him in his home longer. So we're looking to reschedule that, and we're, looking to have more people understand this program better. And now I'm beginning to be able to double book some of my fuel assistance appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays with the help of Courtney, so she can be in her office doing an application while I'm doing another one in my office. And tomorrow we attend more training in Framingham, and she'll be able to, not the first week, but maybe the next week, do the new clients, new applicants coming in, and she'll do one in her office while I do one in mine. So we're hoping to feel the benefits of having, a 16-hour work week person here with us. The reduced fee transfer station sticker program went fine. It's pretty much over unless we missed a few people who decide, to use the transfer station later in November. But so far, I think everyone who was qualified got their sticker for that reduced fee price. And then just on another note, we are getting more calls for the under 60 population, and that continues to, be challenging. And Pamela and I have the possibility to go to a training on suicide awareness and prevention on October 28th at the Concord Council on Aging, and they let us know that they have some openings. If there's anybody who would like to attend, they could accommodate, 1 or 2 extra people from the surrounding towns. So let Pamela or I know if you'd like to attend that.
You have none here that I glanced at for legal services, which is a reminder today at 1:30, the Seniors Citizens Club has Leslie Madge, an attorney, as a speaker. Have we had her recently here for the council?
Don't recall.
Leslie Madge, she lives in Littleton, but she has a law office, I think, in Westford. Madge. We had her years ago.
She hasn't been a speaker here.
Yeah, and she gave out tapes, I remember at that time.
I've seen her office in Acton, yeah.
But I did have, on the under 60 population, there were no legal referrals, but there were 2 legal referrals this month, and 4 duplicated contacts were made with lawyers this month, and that was done through Betsy Crimmins and Minuteman Senior Services. Those
That was different, yeah.
yeah, but they were still legal. There were still
Right.
legal referrals. We had seniors in town,
Right.
either it be an eviction or something similar that Minuteman Senior Services law project was able to pick up and give advice and direct.
Okay, so this isn't if somebody comes in and says, I'd like to do a will, what do I do? This is more,
No, it's more consumer issues,
Okay.
more consumer affairs around housing, eviction, food stamps, mass health, those kinds of legal issues.
Any other questions for Tina? No. No? Thank you, Tina.
And one last announcement, I just want to remind everyone about the Wellness Fair on November 7th, Saturday, November 7th, from 10 to 2, at the middle school. This is our 4th Wellness Fair. Same protocol, we'll have a variety of vendors there, we're going to have free screenings for a bunch of physical kinds of things, spinal screening, earwax and hearing, well, not hearing, but earwax screening. And Neshoba Park and Concord Park, the assisted living places, are providing a free lunch for us that day. So drop in, if you didn't get your flu shot, you can get a flu shot at the clinic. You can also get your blood pressure taken.
But like last year, is it the flu shot that isn't the stepped-up one? It's just the normal flu shot?
Right.
That's right.
It is.
I think
It's not
just
like
the normal
last
one.
year.
It's from Neshoba,
Okay.
Neshoba Nursing.
Last year
I
they had a
haven't heard much
special.
about the special one this year. I don't know whether
No,
they're
I
doing it or
heard
not.
it's not existed.
What I heard is that they did a good match this year.
Okay.
Of course, you know, they select a vaccine a couple of months ago so that they have time to create it. And with the flus that are coming forward, they are the ones that are being covered by the current vaccine. So they feel like they're in good shape, but they're encouraging everyone to get your shots. If you can't get to the wellness fair, if you call our office, we can show you where you can go in other towns.
That's this Saturday,
It's Saturday, November 7th.
November 7th, yeah.
You haven't had yours yet?
No, I was sick when they had it here.
Actually, my doctor said it's too early.
I
No, I
thought
couldn't come.
They don't want you to do it this early. Right?
No.
in September is too early.
No, right now, I asked him the other
Okay.
day when I went, and he said it was too early.
Oh, no. The
Well,
doctor's
each
office.
doctor's a little different.
Doctors
Oh,
are
no, my doctor
different.
said it was too early, that's all.
Well, doctors
He said you were
vary. What do they know?
All right.
Three doctors can have 3 different opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Barbara,
Barbara, your turn.
Oh,
Your
well,
turn,
really
senior
nothing
diner.
different to report. The
Nothing?
bingo is still fine, and the kitchen is,
The kitchen.
Do you know who has the key?
no,
Bingo. No.
no.
We really ought to know that. I don't know why people have keys to the,
Kitchen. Maybe we can get the lock changed in this whole process then, so that you have more control over who does have a key.
Who knows, they may do that.
Yeah.
They're pretty adamant about not wanting people in there.
She
And
might
I
have- You know, she might have had Bill
Should
open
be
it,
a-
but
Should be some kind of control over that,
Who was
probably
in there?
way before your time.
who
even.
was in there?
It was the bingo crowd,
the bingo,
so.
That wild bunch
Well,
of
well,
no, I don't do the
They were
bingo.
running a bingo in the kitchen?
No.
No, but they must have used the,
Multipurpose room, but the kitchen door was open.
Doors were
They
open.
clearly in and out of there. Lights were on, et cetera.
but Well, it won't be
Well,
all.
they did that for the dinner too.
The potluck, they had the doors open, but that was,
They
I
were
think, an
using-
approved thing. I mean,
Well, yeah,
well, I
no.
think Pam was aware that
Tony
they,
came and asked for a key for that.
yes,
for the
so
Oktoberfest.
it wasn't like somebody just was going in, but I don't know either, so.
Mm.
But maybe there's a little bit more security could be also an outcome of this, the kitchen renovation, maybe.
Now, talk slow. Senior
Talk
communication.
slow or fast?
Fast, no,
I
slow.
can hear you.
You're on, Mary.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
The April 7th, there was a new motor vehicle headlight law that started by the Registry of Motor Vehicles trying to improve highway safety, taking effect requiring the use of your headlights and taillights on motor vehicles during inclement weather and when your windshield wipers are on. The law is intended to be increasing the safety on the roadways. And the rules are constantly being amended. When the windshield wipers are on, you should have your front and tail lights on. And from 1/2 hour after sunset and 1/2 hour before sunrise, you should have your headlights on. And this is not counting the lights that are on the vehicle at the time. Second item I have is on Alzheimer's. They are stressing that exercise is good for the brain because it's good for the heart and the blood flows to the brain. They're for early stages of Alzheimer's or memory loss. There is no medicine yet available to cut the loss of Alzheimer's brain destruction. The third item is
By the way, just in order that, if you read this month's Reader's Digest, there's an entire article on Alzheimer's. And
Right.
it's very interesting because it says that, it says if
Right.
person who walks from 6 to 9 miles a week, that's, take your dog out and go for a mile. and
30
do it.
minutes at least.
And you will, the people who were actually measured had much more gray matter at the end of a 9-year period than those who did not. You know,
Right.
and then there were a whole bunch of other things on there, so it was
Right.
very interesting.
Exercise, get your heart pounding, sends it up to the
Time to
brain.
stretch and flex, too. You get your cardio workout
Right.
there.
Supposed to be. The other is Emerson Hospital is hosting an AARP Smart Driver course because cars have changed along with the traffic rules and driving conditions since many people learned to drive decades ago. They are having a 5-hour course, no charge, at Emerson Hospital with an AARP consultant. And they're going to update the technology and strategies to combat the age-related changes in vision, which is affecting many of the driving and your hearing to response time.
And when is that?
Yes.
That's on, what'd you say?
When is the
I
driving?
said it was no charge. I take that back. It's $15.
I
So
thought it
when?
was.
When is it, Mary?
They don't say, they just give you no, they just give you a telephone number to call and the name of a person.
Oh, I think you have it on the scroll, the email scroll that day.
Isn't that strange? They don't mention the date. Oh, October
Yeah.
26th,
Okay.
from 10 to 3.
There's also one that's going to be held at Neshoba Medical Center.
Yeah.
Same thing, AARP, safe driving, same, different date.
Right. This is October 26th, 10 to 3. And the telephone number is 978-287-8244.
Thank you, Mary.
Did I talk fast enough?
You did good. You weren't supposed to talk fast, you're supposed to talk slow,
All right.
so I could hear you.
Before we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No, I said before then.
I'm looking at the clock going, I've got to go to the
We just need a secretary for next month's meeting.
Yes.
Oh, good point.
I'm very sad to hear Chris had to leave because of conflict of hours and so forth.
Because he would have done the minutes, Mary, right?
He was a good asset, Chris.
Someone has to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
We take turns. If you need help, you'll get the help. We'll help. Pam and I will help
Yeah,
you.
I just wrote them out. Pam typed them for me.
So I can type them as long as you just take notes so that we have the information, that's all.
I'm afraid to volunteer, not because I can't do it, because I was secretary on the board. It's just that I don't know what I go for Coumadin check. We live in a doctor's waiting room, my husband and I, doctors and dentists.
Well, we're sorry too, because we need the help. We need somebody to do it here.
And remember,
We
you can
support
always
the
watch
medical
it.
system.
You can always watch it again if you think you missed something.
Yeah, if you get up at 7 in the morning on a Sunday.
Oh, you can download it on the computer. You can stream it on the computer.
Oh, I'll do it again.
Like in the office when you're...
Okay, you devil, you.
You're sitting there on front desk duty.
Oh, you too. You owe me large.
I didn't say any names at all.
You don't have to say any names, because everybody knows who does what and who did them. And thank you.
You're
You deserve a
welcome.
gold star,
Right
or
here.
something.
And they owe me large.
They do. I think you need a lunch or something.
I want to pan her brownies.
Ah, there you go.
Susan, you were the one that
You were
agreed,
Hannah Browning.
Susan agreed to do it.
Yes, Susan agreed. Thank you, Susan.
She was strong-armed into it by silence.
Now you can speak.
Right, get every word of that. She was strong-armed into a brand new secretarial duties against her better judgment.
I want to thank you all on the board for sending me this lovely card. And you,
You probably couldn't read it.
oh, I read it, but I was looking for your comment.
Second.
Oh, all those in favor?
All right,
Aye, aye,
Everyone does.
aye. Okay.
you got 4.